Thank you for joining. So we're going to go through kind of what your next steps are if you are an incoming first-year student to the Vancouver campus. So thank you all for joining today. I hope that you are getting some information already. Again, apologies for the delayed start, but we are going to keep going through kind of some things to help you make those decisions about where you're going to go to next year. All right, so getting straight into it, we're going to go through some of the upcoming deadlines that you might be wondering about. So the end of April is when all of the scholarship announcements will be done. So I know a lot of you had asked about when you'll hear about scholarships. And if you are waiting on that, then you will know that by the end of April, those scholarship announcements will go out. The next thing, if you have been accepted to UBC Engineering already, will be to accept your offer. But I do also want to mention that a lot of our offers are going out over the next couple of weeks or so. So kind of early to late April is when most of our offers go out. So if you haven't heard back yet, a lot of those offers are going to be going out over the next few weeks. So if you are planning to come, whether you have been admitted or not yet, if you do want to live in first-year housing, the deadline to apply for guaranteed first-year housing for incoming first-year students is May 1st. So that's an important deadline to keep in mind. You'll see a few other deadlines here. Most of these deadlines you should have been emailed to you as well about when your kind of next steps are for when your upcoming documents will be due and things like that. But I know another question that a lot of you have is first year registration. For course registration, when will that happen? And that actually happens in late June. It'll happen from June 21st to 23rd, and we'll go through a few screenshots a little bit about that as well. There's lots more things kind of coming up to look forward to that you can see here. We'll walk through a few of those pieces. And the last big thing is kind of your first day of classes in September, which will be September 6th. And that's also Imagine Day, which is your first day of class as well as your orientation. All right, so I got a lot of questions about finance. So let's talk a little bit about finances and money and what that looks like for you. So here is another kind of spreadsheet of looking at what sort of dates you need to pay things by, what those amounts will be and things like that. This is all from the website. The website I'm linking here has not been updated yet, but I have been told that it will be updated to this year now. So I have the dates here are what they should be based on what I know and what it was last year, and they will be updated online on this site shortly, but you can see a rough idea of how much you're expecting to pay. Most important is the deadline to accept your offer of admission and pay the tuition deposit. That will be $500 for Canadian citizens and permanent residents and $1,000 for students on a study permit. You need to pay that deposit in order to accept your offer of admission. But when you accept that offer of admission and you pay that deposit, it will actually apply towards your first tuition payment, which will be due in early September. Canadian students and US students should apply for student loans in June. We do have UBC bursaries primarily for Canadian and permanent resident students, and so you can see when those applications open. Awards and scholarships. So for internal UBC awards, if you are an incoming student, you would have already mentioned if you wanted to be considered for awards when you were actually applying. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, those awards will be going out by the end of April. There are also external awards, so keep an eye on your emails because there's lots of information that goes out in emails that we'll send to you, both sending out through the summer as well as when you get into UBC Engineering. If you become a student here, you'll get something called the e-news, and that's going to send you scholarship opportunities that come up kind of throughout the year as well once you're already a student. There's also other ways to pay, obviously personal savings or income from a job, RESPs if you're a Canadian student, you might have a registered education savings plan. There's also lots of on-campus jobs and co-op jobs as well for you to check out. So as I mentioned, your enrollment services advisor is your main contact for anything related to finances. You will be assigned an enrollment service advisor or an ESA in May, and you can expect to hear back from them with a welcome email, and they'll give you more information at that point in time. Again, they can help you with financial planning, tuition, awards, student loans, any of those sorts of questions that you might have. All right, so jumping in, there's a few things that we're going to go through of just kind of some of the things that you have to look forward to over the course of a degree in UBC Engineering. So it's typically a 4-year program. If you do add co-op or something like that, it can extend your degree. There's really so many things to look forward to. So I just want to highlight a few things of kind of when they happen, because there were a lot of questions that came in about when can I do this or that and things like that. So we'll go through those pieces. So the first thing that we'll focus on is your academics in first year. I've already mentioned that you will be part of the foundational first year program. And so what that is really teaching you the basics of physics and chemistry and math and English, and you'll be taking those basic courses. You'll also have courses in first year that are design focused and team-based projects. You'll get that experience of what it's like to work as an engineer right from first year. So jumping into a little bit about some of the course registration pieces. So you can kind of see on the screen here at the bottom of the session, you should see some links, and one of those is to our course website. So you can go to courses. If you search UBC courses, you can see it. When you actually go to course registration, which you'll get lots more information about, because remember, it's not until kind of late June. So we'll be sending you more updated information when that's available. Courses typically are published around the beginning of June. So this is old information that I'm showing you right now because I don't have access to the newly published information. That won't be up until June anyways. But when you get to the course site, you can look through to see what the past sessions have looked like. So you can look at 21 winter right now. What I have circled is when you do go to register for courses, you will need to select 2022 winter because that will be next year's session. You won't see that right now, though, yet, because it is not published yet, but once it is published, you will see it. What you can see is that first-year students register in an STT. When you highlight over one of those STTs, you can kind of see what's on the right-hand side where it's showing you kind of a blocked out, like what the schedule is sort of going to look like. So that's an easy way to scan through to see what that looks like. Is it going to have more morning classes, more evening classes, things like that? Your STT is going to include most of your courses that you are required to take, except for you will add a humanities and an English course. Now, I know that there are some questions about the pre-biomedical standard timetable. So if you have already been admitted to UBC Engineering, there was an email that went out last week to students to let them know that the PBME STT supplementary form had opened on April 1st. Anyone that's been admitted since that email went out last week will get a new email later this week, with those details of how to submit that form. So we do have those pre-biomedical standard timetables that if you are interested in biomedical engineering, that you can do that timetable. It'll give you priority placement into biomedical engineering, and it will supplement one of your courses in second term for a biomedical focus course. So the what you see on the screen right now is kind of what you can expect to see. It's what you can see from this current year. When you actually click on an STT or a standard timetable, inside of there, you'll see what those courses are and what time they're at, what type of course they are. So you'll see that there are lectures, there are laboratories, there are tutorials. What we have at UBC is you'll be in a larger class. So like you might have a lecture of 200 students, but in those larger classes, you'll have smaller components with 50 or 60 students in those sessions. So in a lab or in a tutorial or in a studio or something like that. So you will have larger sections, but in that same course, you're also going to have a smaller component as well. Again, you can keep scrolling down on that same page and you can see kind of what the schedule might look like for you. Again, this might change year to year a little bit of how those courses are going to be laid out, but you can kind of get a sense of what that will look like. Now, I mentioned for the pre-biomedical standard timetable, this is a screenshot of the PBME. So you can see that there's BMEG 101, which replaces AppSci 101. So it's very similar to the first year, to the regular first year, but it does just have a few supplemented courses. So if you are planning to apply to the PBME STT through the supplementary form, if you do so, if you have been admitted to UBC Engineering and you fill out that form before April 15th, you will be considered for a spot in that STT before you have to accept your offer on May 1st. If you are filling out that form anytime between April 16th and into June, then you will find out later on in the summer if you have gotten into that timetable. So that's just a little bit of information that will go out in the email that you receive as well. So I know there are some questions coming in already about AP, IB, A-levels, things like that. So at UBC Engineering, we highly recommend still taking your math, chem, and physics in first year, because that is really the foundation for the rest of your degree. So what we recommend is registering for all of your courses at the time of registration. And then if you don't want to take that course because you do have credit for it, later on in the summer or even at the start of September, you can drop those courses. You actually do have the first 2 weeks of September to decide if you are going to continue in those courses or not. You won't see that credit show up on your account until mid to late August. So we recommend waiting to see that credit before you even think about dropping courses. We also recommend talking to our engineering academic services advisors for more detail about if you should or what that looks like for you. Some last tips for registration. Register as soon as your date and time allows you to. Again, that will be June 21st to 23rd this year. We'll also have a live Q&A event happening on May 10th, where you can hear from some current students and find out a little bit more about all of the details for registration. And then again, some very specific details will come out in June just before course registration, so that you have all of that information. So just touching on a few more slides to talk about the rest of your degree before we finish off this session. So there are lots of extracurriculars to get involved in your first year. You can join design teams right away. You can get started in research opportunities as well. We have a club called the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Club. So that's a great way for you to find out more about research or get involved in it. There's a lot of free tutoring as well. So we want to make sure that you're successful in your first year. The Engineering Undergraduate Society offers tutoring to students. There are also several resources like the Math Learning Center and the Center for Writing. And then we have Engineering Academic Services that offers academic advising throughout your first year. And then at the end of your first year is when you'll go through the second year placement process. In year two, you'll be taking courses focused specifically on your program that you've gotten into. You can apply to co-op for the first time. You'll continue to take project courses, and then of course you can still join design teams. You can still partake in research opportunities, as well as then start to join your department club. So every department has their own club that students can join, and just another way to get connected. In year three, of course, everything I mentioned in year two will still be available. If you would like to begin a minor, you can do so in year three. You can also study abroad with the Coordinated International Exchange Program or with Go Global. So we have lots of partner institutions around the world that you can go study abroad for a semester. And you'll continue again with those project courses. And in case you were sensing a theme, that we have lots of project-based design courses that will culminate in year four in your capstone project, where you'll solve challenging real-world problems proposed by industry partners. And the projects are very diverse, can include innovating existing technology or designing something entirely new. And if anyone happens to be in the Vancouver area, this Thursday, from 2 to 5 p.m. on campus will actually be our Design and Innovation Day, which is where students showcase their capstone projects this year. All right, so I have a couple of minutes that I can answer some questions, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of information of kind of your next steps and what to look forward to. My email is on the screen right now. You should have all received emails from me leading up to this event anyway, so you're always welcome to send me an email at any point in time.